A woman once appeared in Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom and immediately began misbehaving. She said, "I'm not paying the fine, do whatever you want." Judge Caprio calmly told her he could create a payment plan to make things easier, but her attitude was extremely rude. She insisted, "Do whatever you want, I still won't pay." Judge Frank Caprio, known worldwide for kindness and compassion, felt anger in the courtroom for the first time. This proceeding was never published anywhere, but Caprio mentioned it in his book. And what happened afterward changed his life forever. Who could have imagined that a boy who polished shoes to pay for school would one day be called the world's nicest judge? Watching Judge Caprio's court rulings, no one can guess how many deep wounds hide behind that smiling, gentle face. Frank Caprio was the chief judge of the Municipal Court of Providence, Rhode Island. From 1985 to 2023, 38 continuous years, he fulfilled his responsibility of delivering justice. His fame came from the reality TV show Court in Providence, where traffic violation cases were heard. Parking tickets, overspeeding, red light violations. Judge Caprio always tried to handle cases with smiles, jokes, and compassion. Sometimes he let children accompanying defendants give the rulings. Sometimes he hugged people and comforted them. One day, a 96-year-old man came to court for overspeeding in a school zone. When the judge asked why, the old man's eyes filled with tears. He said he was rushing his 63-year-old son to the hospital because he has blood cancer. Without wasting a moment, Judge Caprio dismissed the case. His warm personality was admired not only in America, but around the world. Judges from other countries even called him their role model. But behind this cheerful face lies a painful story that helped build the man he became. After his retirement in 2023, he was diagnosed with cancer. During this period, he began writing his book, Compassion in the Court, published in 2025. The kindness inside him came from an incident involving his grandparents. They migrated from Italy to Providence. They were uneducated, extremely poor. His grandfather used to run a fruit cart. One day, after drinking with friends, he caused a disturbance and the police arrested him. Caprio's grandmother borrowed money from neighbors and went to court. She tried to offer the judge money to release her husband, using hand gestures because she didn't know English. Their young son Tip, who knew a little English, was standing with them. The judge called Tip forward and said, "Take your parents home. They're free to go." When Tip told his mother, she returned home blessing the judge all the way. That little boy was none other than Judge Caprio's father. Frank says that even though this happened before he was born, every time he sees immigrants in his courtroom, he remembers his grandparents and tries to make sure they don't suffer. His father's real name was Antonio Caprio Jr., but everyone called him Tip. When Tip arrived in America, he lived in a one-room apartment. No hot water, one dim lamp, 12 people in a room. He had to quit school in the 7th grade to support his family. Conditions were so bad that people used to say poor families kept cotton in their pockets. But Frank Caprio wrote, "We didn't even have cotton." Frank was born on 24th November 1936 and grew up in the same freezing house. If they wanted to shower, they had to walk miles. Tip tried many small businesses, but due to the Great Depression, nothing succeeded. Eventually, he found a job delivering milk, and young Frank began helping him. At 8 years old, Frank delivered milk to a wealthy man's home. The owner's son, Frank's schoolmate, was sitting at the breakfast table. Frank hoped he'd be invited in, but instead, the boy was being scolded. His father pointed toward Frank and said, "Otherwise you'd be like him, delivering milk in the freezing cold." These words hurt young Frank so deeply that he wrote them exactly in his book, decades later. Despite hardship, Frank Caprio was happy because of the upbringing he received. On winter nights, they didn't even have blankets. The milk company provided one blanket only for covering the milk cans. Frank shared that same blanket with his brother. Since milk cream stuck to the blanket, a mouse came every night to lick it, and Frank would stay awake in fear. At age 16, his father placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "You will become a lawyer, but promise me one thing, never take fees from the poor." Frank studied in high school, but worked many part-time jobs: milk delivery, newspaper boy, bowling pin setter, restaurant waiter, and polishing shoes on the roadside. He got into a Providence college, being the first among 55 cousins to reach college. Also got accepted into Boston Law University, his dream school, but he knew his parents couldn't afford it. So instead of Boston, he worked as a teacher in the daytime and studied law at night. One day, after dropping him off, a classmate looked at his rundown apartment building and said, "If you live here, How will you ever become a successful lawyer? These words hurt him again, but also strengthened him. He eventually became a lawyer, entered politics, and even ran for attorney general. But his opponents falsely accused him of involvement in organized crime, ending his campaign. One day, while he was having lunch, he received a call from the mayor. A municipal court judge had been transferred, leaving a seat open. Frank Caprio was offered the position. That moment became the proudest moment of his and his parents' lives. His first case was the rude woman who refused to pay her parking fines. On the first day of his judgeship, Frank Caprio got angry and ordered a boot on her car. After the hearing, his father Tip scolded him strongly. That day became a turning point. Judge Caprio promised himself that before punishing anyone, he would understand their life, their pain, their circumstances. He later created the Philomena Fund in his mother's name to help people who genuinely could not afford fines. His show Court in Providence became famous because of his brother Joe, who loved filming. Joe was told to record courtroom footage for a TV idea. These recordings eventually became the show that went viral worldwide. Judge Frank Caprio's kindness made him a global inspiration. After 38 years as judge, he retired in January 2023. A few months later, he revealed he was fighting cancer. On 20th August 2025, he appeared in a hospital bed, asking fans for prayers. The next day, 21st August 2025, he passed away. He left behind memories that teach us kindness, mercy, and the importance of controlling anger while delivering justice.